Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so before we get to the presentation, let's start with the four questions of HackerRank last week. Okay, so the first question was very easy. You have been given two numbers, which in this case are 3 and 5. You have to print the sum of the two numbers, the difference of the two numbers, and the product of the two numbers.
Yeah, can you zoom your screen? Zoom.
All right, this should be good. Is it all right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's okay.
So yeah, so in this case, you have the two numbers 3 and 5. So the sum is 8, the difference is 2, and the product is 15. So let's try to code it in our IDE. So we have our two numbers. Let's say x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 3. And if you see in HackerRank, you have been given both the numbers as an input. So you can just start operating on them. Like you don't have to take an input again. So it's very simple. Just print x plus y, then print x minus y, then print x multiplied by y. And so yeah, the first question is very simple. Okay. Now let's go to the second question. Okay, so we have been given some condition, which is that if n is odd, we have to print weird. But if it is even, then there are three sub conditions within
Okay.
it. So when it is even, then if it is between 2 and 5, we have to print not weird. If it is greater than 5, which is in the range of 6, and less than or equal to 20, in that case, we have to print weird. And if it is greater than 20, then we have to print not weird. All right. So instead of writing it all out, let me just take a look at my submission. Mm, all right. There's nothing here. Wait a second. All right. Let me just copy paste this and I will show you how it works in the IDE. So let's say I have my number in input, enter a number. And here I have my conditions. So as you can see, if n mod 2 is not equal to 0, which means if n is an odd number, this is the condition for an odd number. In that case, I'm going to print weird. But if it is an even number, okay, so the n mod 2 is equal to 0. Yeah, mute it, somebody. Your mic is unmuted. All right. So n mod 2 is equal to 0. This is the condition for an even number. And within the even number, we have the subconditions for it. Like if n is great, we have taken the range which is inclusive of 2 and 5. Okay, so it means from 2 including 2 and 5, which means greater than 1 and less than 6. In this case, we have taken those conditions if n is greater than 1 and n is less than 6. In that case, we are printing not weird, and similarly, if it is between the range of 6 and 20, in that case, we are printing weird, and if it is greater than 20, which means 21 and further, in that case, we are printing not weird. So these are how you can formulate those conditions. Now let's take a look at the third question. Just a second. All right. So the third question is that, let me just read it out for you. Okay, so you are supposed to find the score of the runner-up. right? So you have a list of input, and you have to take that list and you have to find the second highest number in that list. Okay. Uh, so in this case, as you can see, you have the numbers 2, 3, 6, 6, and 5. In this case, even if you sort it, the list will become 2, 3, 5, 6, and 6, which means that your output has to be 5 because 6 is the highest number and 5 is the second highest number. So let's just code it right here.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Is the input is a form of a array or a list or string?
Okay, it's in the form of a list. So in Python, there is no native data type known as array. We just use list instead of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, just give me 1 minute. I have something to do. Wait a second. Okay, so let me first just erase this. I don't think this is part of the code. All right. So what we have to do is that first let's try to do this the normal way. So what we can do is first we have this variable ARR. Let's convert this into a list. So which is let's take a new variable a is equal to list ARR. That means we have taken this and we have converted it in this into a string. And what we will do is we can just sort this like a dot sort, and then we can print out. Let's say we print out the element which is second from the last, in which case we can write a index of -2. But this will not work because as you can see, even in this
Please
example, there are two
please
sets.
can you zoom your window, please?
So even in this example, as you can see, there are two sets, which means that even when you print the index of -2, your output will be the same as that of the highest value. That's why you have to write something else here. So what we can do is we can find the maximum number and then we can find the number that's just below that whose value is just below that of the maximum number. So let's sort the array in the reverse order first. Okay, so all we have to do is array dot sort, and inside we will write reverse is equal to true. Let me just remove this statement.
So can't you just convert it into a set?
Right. Yep, that's also a good way to do it. But in that case, you will lose data, right? So let's take a look at the question. You have some participants from the sports day. Okay, you have to keep track of every student. If you convert it into a set, then you will lose the entry of one of the students, right? So you have to always keep in mind what type of data you are working on. Like, does the data have redundancies? In that case, you can convert it in a set, but if it doesn't, then you cannot. Okay, so we converted this into, I mean, we sorted the list, but in the reverse order, which means that the greatest element comes first, and the next element comes second. Okay, so let's first take the maximum element of from the list of A, and the command for that is very simple. Let's just take the variable as maximum is equal to max of A. So the maximum value of A has been taken from the list which is A. And then what we do is that we run a loop, and we break the loop as soon as we come across an element which is less than the highest value. And since the array is sorted in the reverse order, we will break it. We will the array, the loop will get broken as soon as the value is less than the maximum value occurs at the first index. Okay, so we will write for I in A, if I is less than the maximum value, which is maximum, in that case, we will just print I and then we will break the loop. Okay, so what happens, since the array is sorted in the reverse order, the array will be 6, 6, 5, 3, 2. So as soon as it reaches the value of 5, the loop will break. Okay, so let's try to run this. Okay, as you can see, we have passed the test case. Our output, which we have printed, is 5, and the expected output is also 5. Okay, so now let's go to the last question, which is finding the percentage. Okay, you have like all the input and how to handle the data type has already been given to you in the challenge. So all you have to do
Can you
is
show? Please, can you
yes.
show us the one you just finished?
Which question?
The one you just finished now. Can you show me again, please?
Okay, the third question. This one.
The one
Yes.
you just, the last one you finished now.
Yep. What's your question? I didn't get you.
I said, can you zoom it? I want to see, please.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So should I explain it or are you
Yes,
able to
sir.
understand? Okay, I will
Yes, sir.
explain it once again. So you have an array here. Okay. You have a list, not an array, and the list is consists of these elements. Okay, 2, 3, 6, 6, and 5. And you have to find the second highest element. Okay, not the highest element, and in this case, which is 5. 5 is the second highest element. So what we do here is we sort the list in the reverse order, which means that the highest element will come first and the lowest element will come last. So our list becomes 6, 6, 5, 3, and 2. And that's what happens when we reverse the list. So we take a variable maximum, and in that variable, we store the maximum value of the list. And the maximum value of the list is 6, right? And we store it in a variable, and then we run a loop through the list, and as soon as we come across an element which is lower than that of the value of 6, which is the highest element, we print the value and then we break the loop. And since the array is sorted in the reverse order, as the first element which is different from the highest element will be the one which is greatest but lower than that. Did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go to the final question. Okay, let's take a look at the question. The question is, you have to print the average marks of a student. Like you have different scores given for, like you have different students and each of them has scored a different number in each exam, and you have to find the average of it. But the trick here is that the average has to be correct to the second decimal position. Like you have the output here as 50.0, but the output has to be 50.00. Okay, so first let's take a look at the look at my submission here because I've already solved it. And all right, so let's just copy and paste this in our current buffer here. All right. Okay. So this portion of the code was already given to you. Okay, you don't this was already presented to you. This is just taking input and handling all the data. Okay. So, and this is the solution, right? So what we are going to do is first we take a variable of sum and we initiate it with the value of 0. So in the beginning, the value of sum is 0. Then we run a loop through the list which contains the marks of the students, right? So the student marks is the let's take a look here. Okay, so like 20, 30, 40. 30, 50, 70. These are the values of the marks of the student. Okay, student marks is the key. Student marks is the dictionary, and this is the key. And the key is what we are using to access the value, and the value has all the different marks. And we are doing sum plus is equal to value. What's happening here is that when we're running the for loop, the variable value is incrementally storing the value which the score which has been scored by the student. So if the student has scored 30, so in the first iteration the value of VAL will be 30, in the second iteration it will be 20, in the third iteration it will be 50. And in each iteration we are adding that value to the variable of sum. So sum is going from 0 is equal to 0 plus 20 plus 30 plus 50. Okay, and since we are adding, since we have taken the test of, we have taken 3 tests, like the student has scored in 3 exams, so we will just divide this sum by 3. Okay, this is the average formula of calculating a mean. You add up everything and then you divide it by the number of entries. So we have added all the values and then we divide it by 3, and here we get the average. And this is where the trick happens. Okay, if you just do this, you will get the value as 50.0. But if you want the value as 50.00, in that case, you have to type this special syntax, which is curly braces colon then point to f, and then you have to write the method of formatting the string. Okay. So this format string is very simple. You are taking this variable and then you are formatting it, and this portion is how you are formatting it, and this portion tells Python that you are formatting it to the second decimal position. Like if I change this value here to 4, it will print this up to the 4th decimal position. So if we just run this code, you can see we have passed both the test cases and the output is 56.00 instead of 56 point, let's say 0 or 56.000. Let's take a look what happens when we type 4 here instead of 2. As you can see, we failed the test case because our output is 56.0000. Right, we printed it to the 4th decimal place. You don't have to print it to the 4, you just have to print it to the second decimal place. All right, so all right, we can move to the today's classes now. But before we do that, I want to just show you something. Let me just get it to here. All right, so this is the official server of Technova. I will just zoom in a little when it. Okay. Right. So this is the official server of Technova. That you can just join this. Okay, when you join this, you will also get a welcome card like this. So join this here every day. We like some of us talk here. We can solve your questions. We can solve your doubt. Like it's easier here than, let's say, if you talk to us personally, because some, like, at least one member of the team is always online. So if you can join Discord, you can help. You can take help. You can ask questions. You can also help each other. We have different channel for different types of questions. Yep. So the invite link, Parvez will send the invite link in the chat box and also in the WhatsApp. So just click on that, and if you don't have Discord installed, you can install it, and then you can join this. Okay. Parvez, can you send the invite link in the?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And so we have all the other clubs also there, so you will get to know about the activities of the other clubs also. After joining the
Yep, you have all the 4 clubs here. If you join the Technova, you can react with all of. Let me. Okay, I've already closed it. So you can see what the activities are happening in all of the clubs in the Discord server. Like you cannot do that on WhatsApp, but you can do that on in the Discord.
Yes, and if you want, you can participate in those activities also.
Right. Okay, so let's move on with the class today. So if you guys remember last week, in the end, we studied about lists. Okay, we have so this portion is what we have already covered. So let's move on to the functions, which some of which we might have missed last time. Okay, so there's traversing, which we have done traversing. I will just give you a quick recap. Traversing is done through looping. Okay, so if your name of the list is list1, you can just type for I in list1, and you will be able to traverse the list. And then there's insertion. Insertion is done through two formulas, which are append and insert. And you can also search the list, you can update the list, but the one thing we didn't do last time was deletion. So let's move to the deletion part of the list, and we will take a look at the take a look at how it works. All right. So let's just take this example and move to our IDE. I will just comment out all of this. All right. So we have our list, which is number is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so our command for deleting this is delete. We are using the delete function, which is del, and then we are typing the number. We are typing the name of the list, and within the square brackets, we are typing the index. Okay, so let's try this. We are deleting the name of the list, and inside this, we will type the index. Let me add something here. Okay, we have 3, 3, and 4, 4, and let's say 5, 6, and 6. All right. So this is our list, and this is 0th element. This is the first element. This is the second element. If we want to delete the second element, and then we can just print our list again. All right, and let's run this. What's happening here is that you can see we have 2 3s here, but here we only have 1 3. That's because this 3, which is present on the second element, this has been deleted. Right. Okay. And let's do this again. Instead, this time we will delete, let's say, this element, and the index of this element is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if we delete the fifth element, we should get only 1 4. Yep. As you can see, there's only 1 4 here instead of 2, and that's because we have deleted the fifth element of this list. Right. So let's move ahead. All right. There's also two more options. I shouldn't have forgotten this. Okay. Let's take a look at the remove and the pop function. First, and here we have the remove function first, but we will take a look at the pop function before that. Okay, let me just bring this list back. I will just copy this and I will paste this here. Okay. And if I type here number dot pop, and I will print number. So what happens is that when I use the pop function, the last element of the list that will get deleted. Let's take a look. As you can see, we had 2 6 here, and we only have 1 6 left here. And if we pop it again, number dot pop, in that case, again the last number of this list will get deleted. And so as you can see, both the last and the second last elements have been deleted because we use the pop function twice. And you can just keep using this. If you use this 10 times, so the entire list will get deleted. And now let's take a look at the remove function. Okay. So as you saw in the delete function, we are entering the index of the number that we are trying to delete. But in the remove function, we are just directly inputting the element that we want to delete. Okay. So if here I write number dot remove 1. Okay. So what's happening here that here we have the value of 1. This doesn't mean that the number at the first index will get deleted. The number at the first index is 2. 2 will not get deleted. This 1 will get deleted. Because we're not looking at the index, we're looking at the value. So let's run this. And as you can see, the number 1 got deleted. We are just starting from 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, and 6, which is because the number 1 got deleted. This is how the remove and the pop function work. And similarly, by default, the pop function removes the last element, but you can also input a value here. So I mean, you can also input the index here. In that case, the pop function brings back to index. But if you are trying to remove an index, it's just better to use the delete function instead of the pop function. All right, so let's move ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So if in the remove function, if there are two elements of the same,
right.
like two twos, and if you use remove two, then which two will be removed?
Let's take a look. So here, okay, so let's type number dot remove 3. All right. Here we have two threes, and we remove this, and you can see we still have 1 3 remaining, which means one of these three have been removed. So since the remove function goes from left to right, which means this 3 has been removed. The one which comes first. But if you want to remove both of those, you will have to run this command 2 times.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now we get to the deep part of the list. So by now we have covered the beginner and the intermediate concepts. If you learn if you learn these commands too, then you can call yourself an advanced programmer, as an advanced programmer, at least in Python lists. Okay, so let's take a look at all of these commands one by one. I will not do all of them, but if you get the hang of a few of them, you will be able to your work career on basically all of them. Okay, so the first is easy, list.sum. Okay, so let me just remove these two, and if we just print number dot sum, does it have brackets here? It does. Okay, so if we print number dot sum, we can just run this. Okay, this did not work. Okay, let me just check here. What's the issue? Okay. This should have worked. Okay, maybe this has been removed in the recent version of Python. I don't know. Parvez, can you take a look? Just go to the documentation of Python 3.9 and see if this functionality is still here.
Okay, okay, just.
Okay. Let's take a look at it. This time I will use a variable and I will type number dot index, and in the index I will just take the number which is, let's say, 5. Okay, and if I print a, I will run this, and as you can see I got the output which is 6. Okay, which means this number 5 is at the 6th index value. We can count this. 1 is at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 5 is at the 6th index, and so you know that this command is working nicely. Okay, and then we have append. You guys have already seen the append function. You can just
So
yes,
yes,
yes.
the syntax is number will come inside sum.
Okay, so list dot so list dot sum number. This is it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so it's still a problem. Let's try it like this. Yep. Okay. So this is how it works. The sum is a function of in of itself. It's not a method. And the difference between what is a function and what is a method, that's for next Saturday. Yep, 1 week from now. That will be a really interesting class. We will get started with object oriented, and object oriented is really interesting. Like it's finally when you can get started with the really advanced topics of programming. Okay. So sum is a function and it's not a method. Okay. So we are just using the sum function, and our attribute is the name of a list, which is number, and the output is 34, which means we got the output, which is the entire the sum of all of the elements inside the list. You can just count all of this, and the output will also be 34. Okay, now let's take a look at the append function, which is number dot append, and let's say it's 8. What's going to happen here is we are appending to the list, which means that this number 8 is going to get added to as the last element of the list. So we can just print this. Okay, we don't have to print A, we have to print number here because we are adding it to the list. And we added to the list, as you can see, we got the output with the element 8 as the final element of the list. Similarly, we have already seen insert of the insert example in the last class. Let's take a look at copy. Okay. So we can just let's take another list as the name of list. We will make another list which we will name number 2. Okay, and number 2 will be equal to number dot copy. What's happening here is that this variable number has been copied. All of the values of this has been copied to number 2, and we can just print number 2 here. And let's see what happens when we print this. You can see the same thing with the same elements in the list here have been copied to the second list, which is number 2. Okay, so this is how the copy function works. The elements of one list gets copied to the elements of the next list. And here's the extend function. We have already seen the extend version. Then we have the count. Okay, and in the count we have to send an attribute. Okay, let's take a look at how this works. Okay, so we will just remove this. Let's take a look at the syntax, which is a number dot count, and let's put a number 5 here. Okay, and we will just enter this in a variable a is equal to, and we're going to print a. So what do you think the output will be here in this case? 1. Okay, anybody else?
So
One.
it will print the value of number into 5.
Can you repeat that, please?
It will print the value of number into 5.
The value of number, nope, it will be this returns how many times this number 5 is occurring.
Yes, sir.
And
It will return the number. It will return the value of number into 5 times.
So this number is only appearing once in the list. That's why we get the output as 1. Because instead, if we write 4 here, and we know that the number 4 is appearing 2 times, here 1 and 2. That's why, and if we run this, we will get the output as 2 because the number 4 is appearing twice. And let's take a look at some of the other methods. We were at count. We have already seen how remove and pop works. And let's take a look at sort. Okay, this list is already sorted, so let me just make a list that is not sorted. Okay, 1, 8, 5, 3. Okay, now we will just write a is equal to number dot sort, and we will print a. And what will happen here is, okay,
Printing doesn't work.
let's try something else, and we will just print number. Right, and when we print this, okay, this is working. All right. So what we did was we have a jumble list here, like the elements are in a random order. Then we executed the method of number.sort, which is we are sorting the list, and by default we are sorting it in an ascending order, which means the lowest element will come first and the highest element will come last. So that's what we have as an output here. But the sort function also has some attributes, which means we already saw this when we were solving our question. So if inside the bracket we type the value as reverse is equal to true, and then we print it, what do you think will happen? Like we already saw how the reverse function works, but I still want an answer from one of you.
It comes
What do you
from
Yes. Okay, anybody? What will happen when we execute this in the reverse order? Like, what will get printed here? What will be
So
the first
then
element?
list will be printed in descending order.
Descending order. First one would be
Yeah,
18.
you're
18,
right.
9, 8,
So
7, 5, 4,
let's
3,
run
1,
It's
0.
this.
used. Great.
Yep, you're right. So it gets printed in a descending order, 18, 9, 8, 7, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's take a look at some more. Right. So now let's take a look at the reverse. Uh, let's take a look at the reverse method. So we can. Before we move on to the reverse, let's take. We will mix sort and reverse. Okay. So when we just sort the list, we get it in an ascending order, and then if we reverse it, like we get numbers dot reverse. In that case, this will just reverse the list, and again we get the list in the descending order. So there's the same thing. Like first we had the sorting method, and it had an attribute of reverse, but we split it into two methods, and that's how we did this. But we still don't need to use the sorting method here. So if we run this without the sorting method, what happens is that the jumble list, the list in the random order, that gets reversed. Okay, so 7 is the last element, but 7 is the first element here. So the order of the list has been reversed when we use the reverse method. So you can use this with the sorting method. You can use it without the sorting method. Like you can just use multiple of these methods as you like based on your requirements. And in the end, we have the clear method. Okay, so if we clear it, we will just get an empty list. Like the entire list will get deleted. Number dot clear, and we get an empty list here. If there's no element inside that list. All right. Any questions here? Any method you want me to repeat again?
No, sir.
All right. So let me just comment this out, and we will move to the second thing, which is string.
Sir,
Okay, we
excuse
have more. Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
if we write any
Uh, okay. You cut out there. If we write any. Okay. I don't think she's still here. Okay.
excuse me.
Okay. Yes, you're back.
Sir, can you please turn the last line?
Okay.
If we write any number in the function of clear, what will we get an error or do we get any output, sir?
Okay. Let's take a look. What happens? Okay. So we will just remove this from here. Let's take a look what happens when we write, let's say, and let's type the value of 3. Okay, we have both the index and the value of 3. As you can see, it will give it's giving us an error. It's giving us an error because this method of clear, it doesn't take any attribute. So whatever comes inside the brackets, that we call an attribute. Like here, if we don't have the example also, when you're executing a method, whatever comes inside the brackets, inside the round brackets of that method, that's what we call an attribute. Like there can be multiple attributes of a method and that will depend on how the method was written. But in this case, the clear method, it doesn't take any attribute. Like it was written in a way that it has to be executed with 0 attributes, and that's why we get an error here. All right.
Yes.
Let me just comment all of this out again. And before we move on to the strings, we have some functions of list here again. And let's take a look. And okay, so first we have the compare function, but as you can see, it's not present in Python 3. It was only for Python 2.7 and below. So we are not going to do this. Now we have the length of the list. Okay, let me just copy and paste this this list again. And if we print length of the list, okay, and we print this, Okay, we have to print the length. Okay, the name of the list is number. Okay, the list is a data type. Okay, so we print this, we get the value of 9 because this has the this list has the length of 9. Let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, the list has 9 elements, and that's why we are getting the length of the list as 9. Let's take a look at some other function. We have the maximum function. Okay, and so if we print max of number, we will get the maximum number inside the list, which in this case is 18. So we should get 18 as our output, and we're right here. We get 18 as the output of this function. Similarly, if we write min, we should get 0 as the output, and yep, we get 0 as the output here because we're using a minimum function, which is the minimum element inside of the list named as number. And let's take a look at the final function, which is list of a sequence. Okay, so this is a little different. Let's take a look. So what's happening here is that it will convert a sequence into a list. So what we mean by a sequence here is that it's a string. Okay, so let's take a string. Let's take a string which is by the name of, let's say, XYZ, and we will get XYZ is equal to, let's say, Python. Okay, and we will convert this into a list. Okay, we will use the let's take another variable. Let's take the variable list1. Okay, list1 is equal to list, and inside the brackets you will write XYZ, which means we are converting this string XYZ into a list, and then we are storing it into this variable of list1. And let's take a look what happens when we print list1. Okay, we run this, and as you can see, this string has been converted into a list, and inside that list, each letter, each character of that string has been converted into an element of the list. So what happens if I have some white space here? Okay, if I will enter a white space and I will write Python is string. What happens when we type? We have a string like this. We run this. As you can see, here we have empty elements, right? There's like we have the quotation marks here, but there is no element inside it. That's because this has the value of a white space. Like this has a white space here. Similarly, this has a white space here, and these are what we call you can also call these empty strings. Okay. So these were the methods and the functions of list. Okay. Of these four, because we haven't done the first one because that's not part of Python 3. Does anybody have any questions in these four? Okay, nobody. So now let's move on to strings. Okay, we still have list of it. Okay, and first, okay, let me just take a look. Okay, and then in the end we have strings. Okay, so okay, this is important. Here we have nested list. Okay, first we already know the basics of a nested list, which means a list inside of a list. Okay, let's just take a normal example here. We have a variable list1 is equal to, we have, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here we can type another set of square brackets. Inside we can have some strings. Inside we can have, let's say, p2p, and Python, right? And outside of this nested list, we can type other things like, let's say, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, somebody is unmuted. Please mute yourself. There's some noise from your end. Okay, so here we have an example of a nested list. Okay, we have elements of a list, and here we have another element of, this is one element of list1, but which is also a list, and inside that list we have other elements of the list. Okay, so this is how we can get how we write a nested list. All right. So here you have some visual representation of how a nested list works. So take a look at this example. Okay, the first element is A, the second element is B, the third element is a list, and inside that list we have another list. So the first element of the nested list one is CC, the second element is DD, and the first element of the nested list inside of that nested list is triple E, and then triple F, and then we come out of both of these lists, and the last elements are G and H. And on the right hand side, you can see it in a diagram, right? So the 0th element is A, the first element is B, and the second element, the element at the second index is another list, and the element at the second index of that list is also another list. Okay, so take a look at this diagram, and we will be able to easily understand how nested lists work. All right. And similarly, similarly, as already know, we can access the index of a list both from the left hand side where it starts from 0, 0, 1. The indexing starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Similarly, it can also start from the right hand side, and there it starts from -1, which means that the index of -1 is the last element of the list. So that's also how you can denote this. So like you have this print statement here, right? A list, and inside the index you have -3, which means the -3 means the third element from the right hand side has another list as its element. Okay, so for this, I think this is a little confusing, so we will just write this down. Okay. So let me just erase this, and we will take this example as our list. Okay, the list which is A, and we have B as the second element, right? Here we have another list inside of it, which is CC and DD, and inside of this we have another list which is and outside of these two lists we have another element G and H. All right, so this is our list, and let's print the negative third element. Let's print the element as the negative third index. Okay, so we'll print list 1, and we'll grab the element the index as -3, right? So this is the element as the -1, and this is the element as the -2, and this is the element. This entire list. Yes. Here you mean? Yeah, yep, you're right. There should be coming here. Thank you for that. Okay, so here we have. So this entire list, is the negative third element of this of list 1. And when we print this, as you can see, we get the entire nested list as the negative third element of the list 1. Similarly, inside of this list, okay, so inside of this list, this is the first, this is 0th element, this is the first element, and this is the second element. Which means if you take an approach from the negative side, which means inside this nested list, this list is the element at the -1 index, which means that if I write -1 here, we should get triple E and triple F as the output. Okay, I print this, and as we have predicted, we get triple E and triple F as the output. Okay, so first we're taking -3, -3 in the index of this, and inside of that list, -1 is the index of this. Okay. Now let's see if we want to just print one of these elements. Okay, so triple E is the first element, is the 0th element of the list. So if we write 0, we should get the output of triple E. And as you can see, we get the output of triple E. And similarly, since we're taking the negative approach, we can write -2 here. And when we print this, we also get triple E, because this is the -1 index of this list, and this is the -2 index of the nested list. Okay, so I hope you are able to get a better picture of how indexing in a list works, right? We can just type multiple square brackets, and with each set of square bracket, we just get deeper and deeper into a list. All right, we move to the next slide. Okay, so here what we are doing is we are changing the value of an element inside of a nested list. So instead of typing another list, let's just take this list here. Okay, so we will we'll remove a print here, and here we will write, instead of triple E, we can change it to, let's say, triple I. Okay, we'll write triple I, and then we will print list 1. What's going to happen now is, as you already know, this index is allowing us to access triple E, and then we are changing the value of triple E to triple I, and then when we print triple I, as you can see, triple E has been changed to triple I here. So this is how we change the value of an element of a list, even though it's a list inside of a list. Okay, and then we are adding elements to a nested list. Okay, so let me just take a look. Okay, so here's how we do it. So we will take, let's remove this one. Okay, so here now what we are accessing is, we are accessing this nested list, right? So if we type here dot append, and we can write another element here. Let's say we append 89, and then we print this. What happen is, see, -3, -3 means this, we are accessing this list. Inside that list, -1 means we are accessing this list, and inside of this list, we are appending the value of 89. That's why, as you can see in the output here, we have added the value of 89 inside of the list. And we can do this for anything. We can also type a string here, which is, let's take JJJ for now. And when we run this, instead of 89, 89 has now vanished, and we have JJJ as the output. So it's simple. It's the functioning is the same as of a normal list. And like in the normal list, you can just use the append function and the remove function. Similarly, you can use the same methods here, but you have to just specify the index of which list you want to work on, given that there are many nested lists. Okay, so similarly, there's the remove function which works in the exact same way. We have already studied how the delete, remove, and the pop methods work. And so finding the length of a nested list. Okay, so yep, this is the same thing. This is the 0th element, this is the first element, and this entire list is the second element. So this means that it only counts for a length of 1. So if we print, let's say we print the length of the list. Okay, so we are printing the length of the list. We only get 5 because it's the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Right. So there are only 5 base elements of this list. It's a different thing that there are other elements inside of that list, but the main list 1, only has 5 elements. That's how we are getting the output. That of 5 doesn't matter how many nested lists or how many elements inside of a nested list there are. And if you want to check the length of the list of these nested lists, so we can just do this. We can just type -3 here, and then we type the wrong thing. I clicked on the wrong button. Okay, then we print this, we get the output as 3. That because this nested list has 3 elements, which is this is the first element, this is the second element, and these are the third element. All right, so let me just comment out all of this.
Excuse me,
then,
sir.
yes.
So what if the inner, like we have two elements same in a list, in the nested list and the outer list, and I want to
Yes.
replace the outer element without changing the nested element. Can we do it?
Okay, let's take a look. Let's just do it for this list. All right. So let's say we have an element here of G, and we have, and let's take another duplicate here, which is also G. Let's see. All right. So which of these elements do you want to replace?
The outer one.
This one, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's take a count of the index. This is the 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Which means we have to change the element at the fourth index. So we can just write list 1, and in the index we write 4 is equal to, and we can change this with, let's say, k. And then we print the entire list 1. When we run this, you can see this element, which is the last element of the list, has been replaced. So you can just access the index and you can assign it the new value to that index. Got it?
And now what do I have to change the inner element? What will be the indexing?
Okay, so if you want to access this element, what we first have to do is this 0, 1, and 2. So this list is at the second element. So first we will type 2. And inside that, this nested list is at the first element, also at the second element, right? This is the 0, 1, and second element. So we will again write 2 here. And inside of this list, this element G is again at the second element. What a coincidence. So here we will again write 2. And then we print this. As you can see, this element in the inside of the list, this has been changed from G to K, and these two are unchanged here. Got it?
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so those of you who have studied mathematics, which I hope all of you have, there's a concept called matrix in it, right? So a matrix is just a group of numbers and the number at the starting is denoted by the location of 1, 1. And let's say you have a 3 by 3 matrix, and the last element will be denoted by a position of 3, 3, right? So the like 1, 1 represents the row and the column of that number. And similarly, 3 by 3 also represents the row and the column of that number. Similarly, matrix is a very important concept in programming. Like there are many different applications in computer programming where you will come across matrix, and one of them is machine learning and artificial intelligence. So you should know how you can make a matrix using a list. So here we have some examples here, right? We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 0, and so on and so forth. So what's happening here is this 0. So we have a list here. Let me just type it out. Okay, I will just type this example. My list is equal to, first we will make a list. First we make a list, and then we will directly go to a nested list. Like there will be no element in the main list. All of the elements will be inside of the nested list. So let's take a look at what the elements are. First we have 0, 1, 2, and 3. And let's go to the next line. Okay. Let's go to the next line here, and here we can type the second row of our element, which are 3, 2, 1, and 0. And then we go to the next line again, and here we have 3, 5, 6, and 1, 3, 5, 6, and 1. And in the final row we have 3, 8, 3, and 4. 3, 8, 3, and okay, I forgot to type with square brackets. 3, 8, 3, and 4. Okay, so if you take a look, this kind of looks like a 4 by 4 matrix, doesn't it? Right. So this looks like a 4 by 4 matrix, and similarly, it also works like a 4 by 4 matrix. But the only difference here is if this was a matrix, the location of the 0 by 0 would be the location of this element 0 would be denoted by 1 comma 1, like the first row and the first column. But since we are using computers to represent it, and the computers start writing programs starting from 0, the location of this element 0 is 0 comma 0. Similarly, the location of this 4 is 3 comma 3. So 4 comma 4, it's 3 comma 3, because we are starting counting from 0. And that is the only difference between a matrix in mathematics and the matrix in a programming language, that the first element starts from 0 instead of 1. Okay, so after this class, this is simple, just try to write this, because matrix is an important concept. Like you should know it, how it works, and with time we will also get to some important questions of it as we get to libraries such as OpenCV and such. OpenCV uses a matrix a lot. OpenCV and TensorFlow, like without matrix, these huge libraries wouldn't work at all.
So can you print that list?
Okay, let's print that list. Okay, let's print my list. Okay, run this. Okay, we have some error here. Okay, I forgot to put commas, right? Got it. So we have to separate them by a comma, and we run this. Yep, we get the list printed normally, right? There are all the elements of the list and with all the brackets. All right. Anything else? Any questions in the matrix?
So how to print this in a matrix form?
Okay. You have to. We'll have to. Yes. Okay. There's some static from your mic. I can't hear you. Okay.
Using tool for loop, you can print in the matrix form, but how we can represent this bracket?
Okay, using what? What did you see? Using what can you print it in matrix form?
In using tool for loop, as we have done earlier, pattern program.
Yep. In that case, we can just use one for loop, right? So we type for I in my list. Okay, if we print I, let's take a look at how it gets printed. Yep, and as you can see, this gets printed in the matrix formation. Okay, so it is taking one element of list at a time and it's printing it. That's why inside the loop, and that's how we can see it in the form of a matrix.
Okay.
Okay. So now finally, which I mistakenly said this multiple times in this class now, we move on to strings. We have already covered the basics of string as we have covered the basics of list. So that's why I have not written the same things as inside the list we have all these functions which we had before which we had already covered. I have not added them in the string because I think we all already know them. And the functions of a string and the functions of a list, they overlap a lot. As in the indexing, how to index elements of a string, and how to access elements of a list, and the elements of a string, they are very similar. Like the indexing is the same, and the length function is the same. The append function is the same. Like most of these things overlap. That's why we don't need to repeat all of that here. Like we have already covered that once, and you can just play around to see how it works.
Siddharth?
Yes.
I have shared the resources of list and set. Sorry, that one. List and string
Okay.
WhatsApp
All
group.
right.
So you give them 5 minutes so that they could check that.
Okay, so let's take a break for 5 minutes. You have some string and list resources you have present in the WhatsApp group. They cover everything from the basics. Like they have, these are really nice resources. Parvez made them for you, and they cover everything from the ground up. Like you will be able to understand it from the very beginning. So take a look at that, and if you have any questions, we will cover that, and I will also take a quick run through those resources. Okay, so it's 2:15 now, and we will resume it at 2:20. Okay, let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay. Yeah, okay, let's resume now, and I will share my screen. Okay, so let's take a look at the resources, right? So let me zoom in a little. Okay, so this is how a string works in Python. Okay? So this we have already seen multiple times. We have a variable here, and then we have the equal to sign, which means we are assigning some value to the variable, and we're assigning it a value of a string. That's why we have some text inside the quotes, and we can use single quotes and double quotes to assign a string. And if we want to take a string to, let's say we are assigning a paragraph, an entire paragraph to a string, in that case, we can just use 3 double quotes. And when you use 3 double quotes, you can, go across lines to get to assign a string. And then there's the string, then there's the converter to string. Let's say you have, let's say 42 is an integer, right? But when you use the string function on the integer 42, that in that case 42 turns from an integer to a string, right? Similarly, we have a list here, but when we use a string function on the list, that means that the entire list, including the commas, the elements, the square brackets, the entirety of that thing turns into a string of text. Okay, so as we saw in that list, very similarly, you can also access the individual characters of a string using its index. Let's say I have a string A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Let's just type this out in our IDE. Let's say I have a string variable, let var is equal to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And as you can see in this diagram here, we can access individual characters of this string using the index. So if I type print var -1, which means I should get printed because I is the -1th element of the string. As you can see, the character I got printed. And let's move ahead. Slicing a string. In the last class, we studied how slicing of a list works. Similarly, it's the exact same thing for a list. Let's take a look here. Okay, let's print var is equal to. We are going to print var from. Let's take so in a let's take a recap of what slicing is. So first we have to type the starting element, colon, and then the ending element. Let's say our starting element is 2, and then colon, and then our ending element is 5. What do you think will get printed when I run this? Which of these elements of the string will get printed when I run this print statement?
C, D.
Okay, C, D, and E. But
Yeah.
it's
C, D.
okay, C and D. All right. So it's showing me some error here. Okay, did I do something wrong?
So you didn't use the bracket. You didn't use the square bracket.
Yep, exactly. I had to use square bracket because this is also part of indexing. Yeah, exactly. So let's print it, and
So
we
you
get the
print
output as
CDE.
yeah, we get the output as C, D, and E. This is the second element, third element, and E is the fourth element, right? So the second, third, and fourth element get printed, but the fifth doesn't get printed because fifth is the ending value. We always stop even in a loop, in a slicing and anything, we always stop at n-1. That's why even in this case, we stop at E because E is the fourth element here. And similarly, we go from 5 to -1. Let's say our starting element is 5, which is F, and our ending element is -1, which is I. We should go, this should print F, G, and H. And we run this, and as you can see, we get F, G, and H here. And let's take a look at what happens if we go from 5 to 1. Let's see if it throws us an error or not. And it didn't throw us an error, but it didn't give us a return string either, because a string only goes from left to right. Right? We cannot go from F to A, because if we start from F, then we cannot go in the reverse direction, which means it starts from F and it ends at F, but it doesn't include F. That's why we get an empty string as the output here. So this is how the slicing works. And similar, the same thing as a list, you can just access an element and you can change its value. So again, let's take a quick look at this. I will just remove all of this. We can take another, again, we'll take the variable as var, and let's type hello world, that have var 0 equal to j. In this case, instead of hello world, I'm going to be printing jello world. Okay, this threw me an error. Let's see what I did wrong. Okay, we cannot we can let's print var 0. Okay, got it. So okay, got it. I didn't read the resourcefully, which means I should have read it. So what the difference here is that a string is a type of variable which cannot be edited. Like if you remember, there was a question of mutable and immutable, and a string is one of the variable which cannot be changed, which I had forgotten right now. All right, and it's even present here. Like this will throw an error. Okay, so instead of this, we have to take it into a new element, right? So what we are going to do is we will take a new element. If we want to print, let's say jello world, what we will do is we'll take var2, which is a new element, and this new element will have j. Plus we will add a string, and this string will be var. Okay. First, before we move on forward, first let's take a look what happens if we print this. When we print this, okay, we can print var2. Okay. We print this, we get j hello world. But we don't want j hello world, we just want jello world, which means we have to remove this h. We can do this again by slicing. So what we are going to type the we are going to slice the string, and we are going to start from the first element, right? Right. So we are going to start from the first element, and then we are not going to assign the ending value. And when we don't assign an ending value, it just goes on to the end of the string. Okay. So when we print this, we get jello world as the answer, and that's because first we are taking the character j, then we are taking this string starting from here, starting from e to the end, and then we are combining those two strings. So this is how you can edit a certain character of a string. Okay, the one I did before, that was the incorrect way, and this is the correct way of editing it. So let me just comment this all out. Similarly, the string concatenation, this is also very simple. Just take two strings.
So yes. Please, can you go up a little bit up?
Can you repeat that, please?
I said, no, I mean from the question.
Okay, you want me to explain this again? Okay,
no, not editor. I mean where you are solving questions from.
Okay, so why did we get an error before? You had asked that.
No, sir.
There's an echo from your side. That's why. Okay. Like, in case you can add a microphone, like that would be good. Or if anybody else got it, you can unmute me and tell me what the question is. I couldn't understand.
So I think he wants to go to the PDF.
Okay.
Which will explain.
Okay, here.
And here you want to go a little up.
Yes, go up, sir.
Okay. Here.
Yeah, this one. So please down, please.
Okay, this indexing, this part.
Yeah. No, slicing.
Okay, slicing. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
let's take a look at slicing again. Okay, all right. Let me comment this out. All of this.
No, sir, what I'm
And
saying is that there is a slicing that have 3 numbers. How do we solve that one?
what? Can you please repeat again?
Is it this? Okay, wait, let me write.
Okay, I still can't. There's a lot of echo from your side.
Sorry, sir.
Like,
You can type your question in the chat section, or you can type it in the WhatsApp group as well.
yes, you can do that.
what I suggest.
Okay, should I be explaining this slicing again? Is that what you are asking?
No, sir. I mean this one. There's this one that have 3 numbers in the slicing. How do we solve this? This one that have 3 numbers.
Okay, you mean this line, the last line.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So we didn't take a look at this. So this is quite simple. Let's take S is equal to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And then we are going to print S. And inside square brackets, we are going to have 1, 6, and 2. What's happening here is that we have this starting variable. We have the starting index 1, which means we are going to be starting from B. We have an ending variable 6, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which means we are going to end at G. And we have a jump variable 2. Right. So this is the same format as the loop.
So you said the middle one is what? The middle one is what?
The last one is the jump variable, like how much we are going to be jumping from one to the next. Okay, let me just print this and show you.
The middle one.
We are going. The middle one is the ending value. So the index which we are going to end at. So
the middle one.
Yeah. The first is the starting value. This and the 6 is the ending value.
Okay. And the last one.
And the 2 is the jumping value. So let's take a look. So what we are printing here, first we are printing the B, right? So we get this element B, and then we are printing D, right? We are not, then we are printing D. You must be thinking where the C went, right? We are going from 1 to 6. There's an element C here. This should also get printed. But the reason it's not get printed is because we have 2 here. What's happening is that the list is going to the next, it's going forward 2 elements at a time. So from B, it will go to D. From D, it will go to F. And then if I continue, it will go to H, right? It's skipping 1 element. It's going forward 2 elements at a time.
Okay.
Okay, so just remember this format. This is the starting value. This is the ending value. And this is the jumping value. So if instead of 2, if I write 3 here, okay, so it will go from B, then it will skip C and D, and it will go directly to E. So let's take a look. And as you can see, that's what happened. It went from B directly to E.
Now change the 6 into 7.
Yep, if you change the 6 to 7, let's how many elements do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's change it to 9 so that we can get the entire string. When we change it to 9, we get B, E, and H. So after E, we again jump ahead 3 indexes. We skip F and G and we directly jump to H. All right. Okay.
This is the same concept that you that you have learned while looping. The concept that we used in range. Like concepts are repeating. Try to correlate with the previous concepts. Every concept in Python repeats.
So if you remember the syntax of a for loop, you remember like for I in a range, if you type this for I in range 5, this will go from 0 to 5. If you type for I in range 3 to 7, this will start from 3 and go to 7. And if you type for I in range 3, 9, 2, it will start from 3, it will go to 9, but it will skip 2 elements at a time. Right, so it's the same format which is present in for loop and the same element that's in slicing. So yeah, like things repeat. As Parvez said, he's absolutely correct. Like things repeat in every programming language, and that's the pattern. Once you get the pattern recognition in your brain, then you'll be able to connect it very easily. So then we have, yes, is there a question? Okay, so let's move forward to string concatenation. It's basically the same thing as adding two numbers, basically. So we have, let's say we have s1 is equal to hello, and s2 is equal to world. Let's say we print s1 plus s2. When we print this, we get hello world, right? So this is very easy. We are taking this string, and then we are taking this string, and then we are adding both of those. And when we add both of those, we get a string which is the combination of both of these strings. But if you remember, we did this in the first class 2 weeks ago. So the question on that day was also, I want to add a space here. So how do I add a space between these two strings? Like there are multiple ways of doing this. You can tell me one or two of those. How do I get a space between hello and world?
You put a double quote, sir.
By using new line.
Double quote.
Okay, you mean a double quote here? That was your saying.
You put a double quote.
Double quote where? Like the at the location where I've already put it at.
Put a space between quotes.
Okay, so yep, the one possible outcome is, the one possible solution is I just add an empty space here. Okay, I type quotes, and then inside the quotes I have an empty string. When I print this, I get hello space one because I have also added the space here. And there are other ways of doing this, such as someone also commented new line. Instead of new line, what if we do a new tab? Okay, I will write /t instead of /n, right? Okay, write this. Then should I? Okay, maybe okay. It's a backward slash instead of forward one. Okay. Similarly, if I type /t here, I got more than one spaces, but still I did get a space. But if I write /n here, what will happen is instead of getting a space, it will just go in the next line. So that's why we cannot type new line here. All right, and the easiest way would be to just add a space inside the string itself. Now this is the easiest way. All right, let me just comment all of this out. And all of this we have already done. Finding string length is the same as the list. You're going to print length, and inside the length function, you're going to be entering these. You're going to enter the name of your string. And there's the replace. Okay, now we get to some of the good methods. There's this split method and there's the join method. For this, let us go back to a presentation because I have a little more interesting methods for you there. Okay, so we will not take a look at all of them. Let's just do a few and then we'll move on to the questions. Okay, let's just say I have a string. Okay, I have a string, which is string is equal to hello, we are learning Python. Okay, and then I'm going to print s dot. Let's say my function name is capitalize. Okay. So what this capitalize function does is that let's just print this first. Okay, this didn't work. Parvez, can you check if this is a method or if this is a function? Let's take like this. Okay. This didn't work. Alright, this might be a function instead of a method. So let's take a look here. What happens when we capitalize S? Okay, this is also incorrect. Okay, in the meanwhile, while he's checking, let's move on to the next method. Okay, so if we print s dot lower here, we will just reprint this. So what's the difference between this string and this string? What's the difference here?
The characters got printed in lowercase.
Lowercase. Yep, you're right. So we have H here. There's only one capital letter here, which is H, and this got turned into a lowercase. And let's make it a little more visible here. So if I type learning like this, and then I print s dot lower, even in that case, the entire word got turned into lowercase characters. And let's take a look at some more. Let's see what happens if I split this. Yes.
It was the same. String dot capitalize. Capitalize will just make the first letter to capital. It will just convert the first letter. It won't convert the whole string.
Okay. Okay, so it was already capital. Maybe that's why it threw an error.
Yep.
Okay. So let's run the split function and let's see what happens. So what happens when you split a string is that so the default way of splitting a string is using empty spaces, right? We have a space here, we have a space here, and a space here. So what the split function does is that it takes a string, then it converts it into a list, and the elements of the list are individual words. Okay, and how do we define how do we know there's an individual word, what individual words are? And Python defines that using white spaces. So wherever Python occurs through a white space, it will just split the element right there. You might be thinking, what happens what if there's no white space in a string, right? So let's take a look. What happens if we remove all of these spaces in the list? What will happen then? So we will just print this, and in that case, the entire thing got printed as 1. So let's take another approach. Okay, I type a is equal to s dot split, okay, and if I type b is equal to a dot split. Let's see if anything happens if I do this. Okay, this didn't work because a is already a list and you cannot split a list further. All right, got it. I was just trying to experiment something. Let's go back to our normal list here. All right. Okay, so there are some attributes of the split function, right? So inside this bracket, there are some attributes. So I want you all to go to Geek for Geek and take a look at the different attributes. So what you can do is that you can change where you are splitting. So instead of splitting at spaces, let's say you can split at the character L, such that whenever you come across the character of L, that's where the splitting will happen. That's where you will take a new element before and after. So, and there are also other attributes to the split function. So take a look. We are not going to cover all of them in the class because that will just take too long. So just go there and cover it. All right. So let's take a look at some other function. Let's print s dot upper, and when we print this, we get every character of the string gets turned into an uppercase character, as you can see here in the output. Okay, and these two functions is digit and is alpha. So what these are conditional methods. Conditional method means that the return type of these two is a boolean, and a boolean is either true or false. You all should remember the boolean data type. So these are conditional statements. So that's what it does. If I type if print s dot is alpha, First, let's print this, and we get value as false. What's happening here is that it's checking if all of the character of the string are alphabetical. And since they're not, since there are spaces here, it's giving us the output as false. If a string totally consisted of, let's say, numbers, okay, I type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here instead of using the is alpha function, I type is, we have is digit, all right, is digit. And then we print this, we get the output as true. So what this is digit function does is that it checks if the string consists of only and only numbers. Okay, if I type even just one letter here, then the output will become false. So the is digit function checks if the string consists of only numbers, and if it does, our output will be true. That's how the is digit function works. Okay, so I guess these are all. I'm not going to do all of them. But I want you all to experiment with all of them, and these are not all. Okay, since don't refer to the presentation, refer to the resource. There are more of them here. Let me just scroll down to that portion.
I have added every string function in the resource.
Yeah.
Just go and try each one of them. Yeah.
As you can see, there are 20 or 30 functions here. Like can't even count. There were like 35 functions here. Try all of them. Okay, you will learn a lot. And all of them are given this. If you don't understand one of them, just click on it. Like if I click on this, see the Java T point. Like each one of them has a resource embedded in it. Either it's Java T point or Geeks for Geeks. Like there's an embedded resource in all of them. So did I close it? Let me just go back. Okay. So this is it for string. Last week we gave you some questions, right? We gave you some questions to print this triangle. And I know some of you were able to do it, and some of you even sent your GitHub profile after you uploaded it. Are there some of you who were not able to do it? In that case, I will just explain how you can print this reverse triangle.
Guys, I have shared the answer script, so just check it once and just let us know that if any one of the code you don't understand, we'll discuss that only. Because we provided this answer script. Just check it once in the group.
Yeah. Okay, but let me just still go through this answer, because I think this is a really important question. Okay, so like even if you are learning it now, let's say you are a first year student and you learn it now, this exact question is also asked in interviews. Like you can ask Parvez, he gave an interview a few days ago, and there were questions regarding patterns and how to print pattern. Like pattern questions are asked at a very high level. So if you learn this, if you understand it, it will be very beneficial. Okay, so let's take a look how we can print a reversed 90-degree triangle. So we already have a solution here, but let's write our own solution. Okay, so first we have to take the size of the triangle, which we will denote from the number n. Okay, so we will take n is equal to int input. We will write enter a number. Okay, and then what we are going to do is we are going to run a loop which will run in the reverse direction. Okay, we have a loop here which is going from let's say for I in range, starting from n, and it's going to 1, right? It's going to 0, and the jump value is -1, which means it's starting from n, it's going to 0, and it's going in the reverse direction because n is a positive number. Okay, and inside that loop we have another loop for j in range of I, right? J in range of I plus 1 to 1, and it's also going in the reverse direction. Okay, I plus 1 to 1, and this is also going in the reverse direction. Okay, so try to visualize this. We have, let's say the value of n is 5. So the loop is going from 5 to 0. This loop is going from 5 to 0.
and this loop is going from 6 to 1. In the first iteration, it will go from 6 to 1. In the second iteration, it will go from 5 to 1. In the third iteration, it will go from 4 to 1. Then similarly from 4 to 1, then from 3 to 1, then 2 to 1, and in the end, it will go from 1 to 1. Okay, so it's going in a decreasing order. But since it's going in a decreasing order, we can just print it like this. Okay, so we can just print star for each value of j. Let's see how we have done this here. Yep, that's exactly how we have done it. We can just write print, and we have to print star, and we shouldn't forget, since we are printing each star in one line, we have to write n is equal to an empty space. All right, and do we have anything? Yep, and we have to write a print statement outside of the j loop, just so that after this loop is complete, just so that we can come to the next one. Okay, and let's try to run this, and I will write my number. Let's say I type the number 8, and so I get the triangle with 8 starting from 8 stars. Okay, I know this is confusing. I don't think anyone gets this at the first attempt. Like, even I didn't get it. Many people don't get it at the first attempt, so don't worry about it. But do you want me to repeat this? Anybody? In case you didn't understand the specific part, how we got this triangle. Okay, everybody got it, I assumed. If you got it, just say
Yes,
that
sir.
you got it. All right. Yes. So yep, that's nice if you got it, because this is, it's a little tricky. Okay, and we have some more pattern questions for you in the last week, and we will also. So for today, we do not have any homework for you. Okay. So except for these, except for this. Okay. So except for these functions, just go and experiment with all the methods of the string. That's all for today. We don't have any specific questions for you as homework. So all right, so just go enjoy your day, practice these questions, practice. Don't force yourself to practice it. Okay, so make it fun. Python is supposed to be fun. So so as long as you're having fun programming, do it till then. And that's it, I guess. So today you don't have any homework. Tomorrow we will be giving you some questions after tomorrow's class, and those will include pattern questions. The pattern questions really enhance your ways of efficient programming. Like, it's easy to brute force anything, but when you have to do something in a very efficient way, that's when it gets a little difficult. So tomorrow we will be giving you more questions which will include pattern questions. For today, do all these methods, and there's a feedback form. Do fill the feedback form. That's how we adapt to each and every class, so that we know what you want, and we also solve the questions. We also address the questions which come in the feedback form. Okay, so that's it for today. If anybody of you have any questions, you can ask me. We still have 5 minutes left. All right, I don't think there are any questions. So is there, and the chat box is also